Okay, so hello, welcome to this session about process mining. My name is Ilya Fainberg. I'm a senior product manager at Microsoft. So as you can see, I look on the picture exactly as I look in real life. At Microsoft, I work as part of the business applications product group. So we are part of the larger engineering at Microsoft. And I specifically work in a team that is doing R&D. So we are part of the R&D team. We are not necessarily doing hands-on engineering work. That's what the actual engineers do. What we normally do is we engage with customers. We can represent the engineering team with customers and advise them on how to implement our products in the best way possible. I work with Dynamics customers, with general platform customers, and my personal certain passion is towards Power Automate and Power Apps. We also do quite a lot of initiatives and work within Microsoft and outside of Microsoft as well. Yeah. We engage with customers, we advise them on how to implement the products the best way possible. And on the other side of that coin, we also try to understand how our customers work with our products, how they engage with our products, what's missing in our products, and how we can improve them. So it's not entirely obvious to them. I mean, if they proposed to me before I joined the team, how much our customers actually affect our products. I mean, literally, we will have situations where customers will come and say, we want to have that feature. We would evaluate that, this is something that is not needed just by that particular customer, but by everyone. That can be a useful thing to have. And we will make that as part of the product. And I was specifically party to several such developments. For example, the customer managed key was initially something that my customer said, either we have it or we don't like it. And now it's part of the product, and there's a lot of customers using that. Hybrid mode authentication, so the new way to authenticate with Exchange, was also something that came up with one of our customers saying that we want to have a more secure way to go and integrate Exchange on-premises to cloud, and we built that in literally 3 months, and that went into production. So. And yes, of course, I will also be listening to the previous presentation of the complaints. I was writing down names. I will shut down here. So, a quick history about me. I started out my career as a developer many years ago, quite early on. My first commercial project was surprisingly a CRM system, a custom CRM system that was built when I was 15 years old. It was used to run a hospital, some life, but not become the system. Since then, I worked in many different industries, mostly as a developer, mostly in business automation, pretty much almost anywhere in the world outside of the South Pole and North Pole. Yeah, I got a lot of experience doing that, and a lot of experiences that I use day to day when I work with customers. So ideas that came up with one industry can influence on how I engage and how I invite customers in another industry. And you would be surprised how much those processes can overlap with each other up to the degree where ideas coming from implementation for Food Cloud can be useful for a retail organization or for manufacturing or distribution. Yeah, so I was always a techie guy. I would like to think that I was always that guy, but most likely I'm that guy. At least from the point of view of other people. Well, that's all. So today we're going to talk about process mining. So what is process mining? Before we go too much into the details of what we offer at Microsoft, process mining in general is a class of product that allows you to understand how the business processes of the organization work, right? So how efficient they are, how people are struggling with certain processes or not struggling, or performing well in certain processes or not. So you can use data and use computer-guided observation, use AI to understand whether the processes that you implement actually work good in your organization or not. A very common example that many of you probably encountered in implementations would be case management. So call centers, situations where often having a quick response is very important. You often have SLAs, and you often would have much more rigid control over how people work and what they do and when, and kind of a real timeline of what needs to happen in when. So that same concept, that's an ideology to you, so that you realize how that's implemented, how that works, can be also applied to any process, invoicing, manufacturing, whatever else, whatever your process is. You can look at the different levels of how the process is being executed and understand is it done efficiently or not. And if it's not, then how you can do, what you can do to improve that. What are the roadblocks, what are the issues that can be resolved. So that's process mining in a nutshell, right? Kind of an AI infused way to create guidance and insights from the processes and the data that you have. So what kind of processes work with process mining? Really, pretty much anything would work. So as long as you have a process that has steps to execute or activities, a process where people do something, that means that this is a process that can be mined for efficiency. Right? And this is really what you want to do. As an organization, no matter what you do, if you sell shoes or build nuclear power plants, you have processes. Sales processes, marketing processes, manufacturing processes, doesn't matter. And you have people working with those processes unless you have transitioned to an era of pure AI. And you want to know how efficiently they work with those processes. So let's say, as an example, customer service, we talked about that as an example. Lead qualification, right? If you ever saw Dynamics or really any marketing application, you will see that the lead would have multiple steps for qualification, and for each step you would have normally a set of activities that you need to do. So because lead qualification is not usually as time sensitive as case management, we often don't really know what happens there. We don't know how much time the marketing person spent on doing whatever they need to do. But with process mining, we now know. At least we can know. And we can know it with two ways, and we'll discuss that either by direct observation, so using computer vision to observe what each person does and build a process of that, or by observing the data with which the person interacts and see how fast they go through the different steps or how fast they go through the different data sets they have to go through normally. So basically any process that does anything or have people engaged in it can be process mined.
Can you also do it on IT projects?
Like what?
I don't know. Typically, they overrunning budget and things like that.
You mean for project management in general? You could look in project management in general, and IT projects as well. You also have tasks. Tasks have a start date and an end date. You have resources assigned to those tasks, right? So if you have this data, and I will show how little data you need to process mining, you can already build a model to evaluate the efficiency of your project. So is it something new? Process mining, is it something that we have invented just yesterday? No, it's not. Yes. So it is something that exists on the market for quite some time. There are a few kind of market leaders in that space. The slowest is probably this one is the biggest one there is. It holds more than half of the entire market at this point. You have Aries, you have now, you have Process Gold, which was acquired by UiPath 2 years ago. So all those are providing kind of different ways to do process mining. They have different ideas to do that, but also there is certain commonalities in the sense that they are working either with visual data or with actual business data to understand or try to understand the way processes work and how efficient they work. I think the difference probably is kind of capabilities, built-in capabilities, and how they actually present and allow you to interact with the data. So that's different across them. And for example, this one is pretty nice. It shows data in a way that is, very visual, very good. So you can engage with the data in a way that is understandable for the regular user. And well, I mean, it is so good that we decided to write. And now we are in that phase. So we have to be fair, we have started in that phase a bit earlier before we acquired mining, but still, I would think that this acquisition will bring quite a lot of experience and a lot of, let's say, ideas that are necessary to expand that particular space. We are positioning process mining as part of our process advisor offering, which is part of the PowerTalk, which is part of our platform. There's a lot of learning involved there. I kind of feel that it's something that we might address at some point. But right now it is part of the process advisor offering, kind of our larger process mining offering that we have within our platform. So what's the difference between kind of what we offer and the other kind of solutions offer? This is the screenshot I took directly from the presentation video of one of the solutions, of one of the other solutions. And this is kind of how they present the easiness of analyzing data. It is quite clear that unless you are a data scientist, there is no real way for any normal person to understand what the hell is going on. I mean, you can zoom in as much as you want, but it doesn't cancel the fact that this thing exists. And this is not really what you want to do. If you use Power Platform before, and I assume that you have since we're here, you would notice that our philosophy is citizen developers, makers, is to no code, low code is really not just kind of a word, not just a gimmick, but not a marketing term. It's something that we stand behind and try to implement. Everything we do within Power Platform as much as we can. So we don't want to have this kind of experience. We want to have this kind of experience for this, for this, for this. So, I mean, you would agree that it looks a little bit better than the spaghetti that we had before. And it is by design. It is made with the thought that it will not be used by data scientists or by data professionals or whatever. It can be used by regular people in the office, by people from accounting, by janitors from sales. Right? They can understand the efficiency of their own processes, or the processes of their teams, of their departments, of their project, whatever else. Right? So obviously you can go to a level where you might need someone, expert in the area to build something bigger. But the entry point is very, in a sense, that anyone can do it. And that's the general philosophy of our platform. That's the general philosophy under which we also want to bring process mining to everyone. So how does that work? Really, it's quite simple in a way. I mentioned that you don't need a lot of data to process mining. And actually, you need to have just like 3-4 fields in order to start doing that. And the way process advisor does that in PowerPoint is by interacting with one of two entities, an event log or an activity log. So an event log, meaning that someone in the system did something related to a process. Let's take a case for example again. You have a case has a case ID, so we are working with a specific incidental case. So that data point is there, we know that. We need to understand what's happening within each instance of the case. You have activities that you do within the case. So, I don't know, call the customer, approve product, approve sales list, whatever else. That's the activity name, activity title that you do. But we also have that, and that is within the case. We have the case ID, and within each case instance, we have a list of activities that you do, and for each activity you have timestamps when you do them. And if you have just one timestamp, then we call that an event log. I mean, this is really a term specific to process advisor. It's not a generic term. Right? So process advisor calls that an event log. So something that has an ID representing an instance of the process, a name of an activity, and when the activity was performed. Essentially, that's it. Activity log is the same thing, but you have another data point. You have an end date. You have a start date and an end date, and that gives you potentially more accurate information of what happened and when it started and when it ended. Because in the case of the activity log, because we don't have an end date, we assume that the next activity is also the end of the previous one, right? Sometimes it is the case, sometimes it's not the case. It depends on kind of what data you have in your system and how you. But the point here is that the data model that is needed to process mine is so simple that no matter with which system you work, it's easy to extract data that would confirm to that data model, and therefore process mine in such a way that you get an actual insight of what's happening. And when we do that, we store the results in database, so that can then be okay. So what do we want to do next with process mining in general? So we like to have the facility to look into processes both in a visual way, so we can actually monitor what an individual person does in their workstation, and that's the efficiency of the process. We have the new data process mining, which is what we're going to do for you. So understanding the efficiency of the process in mass using data for an entire department or company or team or whatever else, not individual persons. But we also wanted to take this concept further, and we have recently, if you noticed, if you opened PowerTalk in the last week or so, you notice that there's a new option to improve the performance of your flow. So every flow that runs in PowerTalk now has process mining built in, meaning that every step that is executed in PowerTalk can be analyzed by process mining, and you can understand in which variations your flow executes, how much time does it normally take, are there any outliers, are there any issues, and so on. So it's kind of a new way to, well, maybe it's not really important, but it's a way to understand the overall efficiency over time of how your business processes execute in PowerTalk. And of course, once you take it further into other PowerTalk products, in fact, in a few weeks, I will be publishing something around process mining and steps, power-ups. So the ability to process mine the user experience of power-ups, how users engage with power-ups that you create. Okay. So, do you have any questions, or should we continue to do that? Well, let's start from the beginning. Something that's not too small. Everything in the background. So, if you go to PowerPoint, and you go to process advisor, you have your own stuff. But what you need is one sense stuff here. And so I mentioned process advisor is our offering for process mining. And it has two options right now. There's the recordings and the data. Data being the new option. Recording is essentially when you use part of the desktop to monitor what a person does visually. So, where you look at what buttons you click, what menus you go to, what things you open, what addresses you navigate to. You record all that and create a flow indicating you what an individual person does with the process, with the process they're engaged in. And that gives you an overview of, well, individual people how they do certain things. The data option is the macro scale of that. It doesn't look at the individual people. It looks at the data with which they engage, or rather the data that they produce while engaging with different systems. So as I mentioned, when you work with a task, you start a task and you end a task. Right? That means that you are created a data point where you did something. You had a call for 10 minutes, that's a data point. You had a task to approve a contract, right? That took you 20 minutes, that's a data point. So those data points can be extracted from pretty much any system. It doesn't have to be in database. If your Salesforce doesn't work efficiently, I'll have to tell you about it. So you can take that data from anywhere and process mining through process advisor. Let's look at an example here. So this is actually an example that I'm showing you that you can also repeat yourself. We're able to do the same data set. You can get in here, demo data set, an Excel file. So we're going to use the data preview. You notice that the reporting to the premium feature, you have to pay for it, and the data is now in preview, so you don't have to pay for it, you can play with it. Okay, so let's load the file. Sorry, so since you are young people, I think that interface would be very familiar to you. In here, you can, in the normal way that has been used in normal Power Query, that is used pretty much on every analytics reporting related up we have in Microsoft. You can select the data sources that you want. So we do an Excel file, and we go to the database, Salesforce, whatever you want. I'm going to use the Excel file. And I have the option to either connect an Excel file from OneDrive, or I can just open one, which is what I'm going to do. So once the file is uploaded, we see here again a fairly familiar interface. To work with any NVI apps or Excel or Dynamics or Inside apps or whatever else. We have here one table. Table contains information about invoice processing. We have the information about case ID. Originally, we need to have some reference to the instance of case that we are going to analyze. The name is in the activity of the type that executes within each case instance. Then we have the start type and end. And that should be a familiar interface. The basic data that we have, we can add additional columns or new columns or new information that we want with our query. I don't want to do anything, I don't want to change anything, but one thing I want to do is to map it. And to map everything means that I'm going to now map the data model which I import into the data model of process environment. As I mentioned, we have two options here. We have the activity log and we have event log. If you look at the data, we do have two timestamps, meaning that this case would be an activity. So activity, let's map. So activity name would be activity, case ID would be case ID, very convenient. And time is everything. Very easy. I could even just click on map, but we also okay. So we have mapped the data model that we have imported into the data model that processes advisory requirements. Basically, that's it. So if you are able to get 3 or 4 fields out of your system, there's a good chance that you have this data information in any system that processes any business processes. And it's not for your record, it is for compliance purposes. Then you can do process mining. So what we need to do is save and analyze, and then it will save and analyze. It will take some time, but unless you guys want to wait, continue to so, I will just shoot it. And go to just also. So the results look something like that. So we have here, let's look at this first. So we see here the visual representation of the process that we have uploaded. There's those rectangles, actually representation of the activities that we're doing, and those arrows are the various combinations of how one activity can interact with another. So this is a representation of all the cases that we have before, not just one specific case. It doesn't mean that in one case it goes both this way and this way. It means that in some cases it goes this way, in some cases it goes this way. It's here. In some cases can go into this layer of the process, and in some cases it can go into that route. So how do you actually know in how many variations, in how many ways the case, this particular process invoicing, invoice processing can execute? If you look at the dashboard here on the right, I have that information. So I have information, a data point called variance. The variance essentially is every way an invoice can be processed within the data that I have people. If you, for example, import customer service cases, then you will see here all the variations in which customer service representative would follow to resolve a certain case. And that already can give you some information in terms that if I have a complicated process where the different variants are feasible, this sounds realistic, then it's fine. But if I have an organization with a fairly simple process, and I'm seeing that my organization has the same process running in 11 different ways, that will tell me that something is not entirely right. So we have here the number of cases that we have imported, 1.3, and the number of well, that's not the number of activities, that's the number of types of activities that we execute in each case. You have your gathered case duration, the median case duration, and we have here information about how many cases execute per variant. So we see that we look at the top 4 variants, and we see that the vast majority of cases execute only 4 different ways. Despite that, we somehow end up with 11 different ways that case execute. So that's kind of a bit of a red flag. But, you know, that's important. So we have information about how many cases were resolved per, so how many variants were released per month. We have the time to execute per month. We see there's a sharp rise in June, July, and August for some reason. We look at that. And on the right side, we have some filters, which allows us to zoom into data and understand where the inefficiency or where the issue comes from. So we have the filters for the built-in data that we have in process survival, so that include by activities, by case ID, by variants, by start dates. But I can also filter by custom attributes that have been imported in that same Excel file. So aside from the case ID and the activity, the start date, and end date, also have their information about the location of where that process took place, where that case was handled, the resource, the who handled that case, and the roles. So let's go ahead and look at how does that affect the process. So let's go ahead and look at invoice processing. I'm now filtering out all the cases where the invoice processor as the role was involved. And I can see that there is some change, but not very drastic change. I see that they are engaged in all various cases. They are engaged in probably all types of cases. There's nothing really happening. That means that this role is engaged on all activities, all cases, and probably something role that is used for any variant when we produce invoice. Let's look at invoice approval. So invoice approvers is a bit different. You can see that they are not engaged in all case types or all case variants. They're engaged in just some of them, which are actually 10 of the 11. So that's interesting for us to see that there are some roles that don't engage in some types of cases, or in cases that are executed according to a certain variant. We can also see that the process itself has changed somehow to account for that. So they are specific variants that are not existing. Again, that doesn't give me enough information to understand where the inefficiency comes from and why do you have, why does it take so much time to process an invoice? Why do you have so many variations? Let's check that and go into resources. Maybe, maybe just that guy or that person who's not doing the job, right? So let's look at that. So we see that Abby actually, all the cases that she handled 12 cases in 5 different ways. We see that the average here for case handling is around the average for the limitations, so 7.5 days. Yeah, doesn't tell you much information apart from the fact that she doesn't seem to handle a lot of cases out of the overall amount we have. And she seems to be limited to a certain variant of cases. Although, if I look here at the breakdown, we see that for the most part, she handles all cases in one particular variant, but in other times, and that happens only once per variant, she handles them in entire business. Let's look at this. Okay, so you can see here the massive difference. First of all, more cases are handled in half the time of the previous one, and in this variance. And if you look here at the process itself, you can see that there is no step that takes like a day or more to execute. It's all hours and minutes and all single digits. So we did much faster. So it just was it just Abby that was improving, or was it slow? Does she work under a different rule or something like that? I don't know. Let's dig further. Let's look at locations. Maybe that's the issue. Let's look at something. So in the San Diego branch, they do things even slower than average, so 8.5 days to run a invoice. They handle a small amount of cases, or cases take the most time to do that, run in almost all variants possible. And we see that they have steps here that take more than a day each. Multiple steps taking a day or even more steps. And we also see here that there's this step in front of the special function which appears in all steps, seems to take quite a long time. Okay, let's look at a different location. Let's look at San Francisco. So San Francisco does things much quicker for some reason. So it wasn't just one person, the entire branch, entire location that does things entirely differently. It does things according only to 5 variant of 11. And you see here again, there's no that long process with final special function, which takes more than a day. And the longer process that we have here is 12 hours instead of a day and a half. So maybe that's the issue. Maybe different branches work in different ways. Let's look at Seattle. Yeah, so Seattle is even quicker. 2.7 days to run the average invoice versus 8.7 days for San Diego. And again, they use only 5 variants out of 11, not 10 variants that San Diego has. And we see here that there's no, we found a special voucher step, which takes more than a day. Again, every step takes maximum 12 hours, and the overall result is much better than the average and much better than San Diego. So we spent here, I don't know, 20 minutes looking at the data with very basic requirements. So just what you did, when you did it, and that's it. And where you did it, what's the branch, what's your name. And based on that information, we have understood that we have branches in our organization that work according to different rules, and some of them do that incredibly efficiently. So what do I do next? Well, I can go to the branch and talk to people, talk to the manager, and then why is it different? Why was there to be very different? Why does it take so much time? Is that special circumstances or something different? I can make reservations, and I can make changes to the organization that will perhaps alleviate the situation. And when I do make the changes, what I can do is re-upload the new data, run the process again, and compare it to the previous line. And see that something has improved, or something has not improved, or maybe it became worse. So this tool essentially allows you to look into data in a very detailed way in mass essentially. And understand where inefficiencies happen in any process, pretty much any process that happens in any organization. Second, I also have here another tool. So we can also focus not on the process, but on the time it takes to execute different steps to the process. Right, so if you look at everything we have here, we can see here, I mean, if we will go to the page initially, so that this actually final special voucher takes not just more time than anything else, but more than much. Actually, also the information day, just for convenience purposes, I can change the limit to be hours. More easier way to look at the data. So I can see that it takes usually more than a day to execute that step. That means I need to hunt down that step and understand why it takes so long, why it is only one branch, and how I can get rid of that step or at least make it much more efficient. I can also filter out by variance. So you see that variant 1 takes the most time. click here, and you can see which tools are involved there, which cases are involved there, and which activity types are involved there. You can also filter out the activity, to get insight about how much time that memory takes. You can filter out by specific cases if I want to, right, to compare their performance, individual cases against the other performance. And I have here additional tools to filter out information by days, by activity type, by cases. So, this is kind of what I wanted to show you in the process mining. In summary, one thing I've got to show you that you can actually export everything if you want. So if you want to take the data out and continue to analyze it somewhere else, you can do it as well. In whatever tool you want. So, process mining, in summary, quite an interesting tool to understand if your organization works efficiently. And as you saw, it took us, basic Excel skills, half an hour of our time to upload the data, analyze that, get insights, and then understand what will be the action plan going forward. Perhaps the process of getting data out of another system can be more difficult with a system. I would say if you are working with Dynamics, then basically these events, logs, and activity logs are built into the system, so exporting the system is very easy. And even in other systems, again, Salesforce, whatever else, they have similar things that you can export to use for process mining in that framework. And as you saw, it doesn't take data scientists to do that. Right? I'm definitely not the data scientist. I can very good report, but building that was easy. And that's the point. That's the point of our platform in general, and that's the point of the way we implement process mining here specifically. That's it, I think, on my end. I'll probably slide with questions. So, if you have questions,
what about sharing and the dashboard itself? Is it refreshed at certain times, like Power BI? Or?
It's not. So it actually takes quite a long time to generate all this data. So for example, if we were to wait for that Excel to run through, it would take around 5-6 minutes to do that. And on bigger data sets, that can probably mean take more. So the idea here is that you probably wouldn't run that kind of process every day or even every week. You would run it, well, maybe every week, but normally you probably would run that like once a month, once a quarter to evaluate what was the impact of the changes that you have made based on insights you got from this activity. You can potentially run it like daily for smaller data sets, like again, the case management comes to mind. You can collect all cases that are generated for today and run them daily, whereas for any signs of inefficiencies, especially mission critical applications that can be essential. But yes, it wouldn't refresh it.
Is it possible to link it to AI in a sense that it could give you some recommendations, like in this case, fire the entire San Diego food?
That's a very good observation. So right now, it's not really there. This is something that we are going to move into that direction in the sense that we would want to have some kind of recommendations given based on the insights that you see, and we would want to have a better ability to connect the insights that we get from there to another platform that can get those insights that we're looking for, the AI piece. Because I mean, we do have AI on a separate piece in Azure and in platform as well. So connecting that AI that we already have, that piece, to here makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you can do it right now with like export Excel and upload it to that model. Not super convenient, but technically possible. But yes, in the future, of course, we want to have even more integrations with the products that we have right now on the platform.
If you look at dynamic sales, you have a lot of processes that are a candidate to the process insights. Do you plan some out-of-the-box insights?
So yes, as you saw, we only have that built in for automate. So it builds automatically a report like that for every flow that you, well, for every flow that you build. And we would want to have similar things built in into other areas of our platform and other areas of dynamics. And I mean, as you know, we have this series of products for insights, the product insight, customer insight, and touch, and that could be an extension of that direction.
A big challenge with all of this, and I think you showed it in the beginning, is the fact that you can gather a lot of data, too much data, and then you try to analyze too much. Is it like a sort of best practice? How do you select the right data set, or how do you print it, or any advice there?
You could do something. Well, as you saw in the beginning, the interface is called query. So you can, I mean, definitely have the facility to filter down the data to what you need. The question is, how do you decide what data you need or not? Yeah, that's a very open-ended question because it depends a lot on the kind of process you're running. Right? I would say that, well, of course, you need to have the basics around the case ID and activities, but you would also need to understand information about the resources that was here, where the process is being executed. I would say that if you are running a cross-organization analysis and across different departments, so you want to compare different departments, how they execute the same process. So yeah, it very much depends. The general guidance is that I would look for what is common across the people that work or engage in the process you're trying to monitor. And usually in that commonality, you can find the differences and the inefficiencies. What else? Well, okay. In that case, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming. And yeah, if you do have questions, you can always find me on LinkedIn. Happy to engage. Thank you.